Hey pen people, your fountain pens will never be good enough, and in this video I want to talk about why. And maybe this is just a me problem, but if you've been in this hobby long enough, I'm willing to bet that you've experienced at least some of what I'm going to talk about in this video. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. Anyway, I've noticed that I'm never quite satisfied with any of my fountain pens. There's always something about the way they write or the way they feel in my hand that just nags at me. They're always too wet or too dry or too thick or too thin or too heavy or too light, etc. Or sometimes I just kind of get a little bored of them. Certain pens just don't hold my interest the way that they used to. But I've started coming to terms with the fact that none of my fountain pens will ever be quite good enough. And I don't think it's just because I'm a stuck-up pen snob. Okay, I'm a little bit of a pen snob, but I think there's something deeper going on here that's worth taking a closer look at. And I don't think that the answer is just buying new pens or buying different kinds of pens in hopes of finding what's going to be the right pen for you. I used to think that was the answer. I began this hobby with a search for the one pen that would be the perfect companion for all of my creative writing needs, the pen that would end my search and just become an extension of my hand as I wrote brilliant poetry. But nearly a decade later, I haven't found that pen. I've used pens that cost $2 and I've used pens that cost $2,000, and I'm not even making that up. And still, nothing has quite fulfilled what I'm looking for. And I don't think any pen, fountain pen or otherwise, ever will. There are two reasons for this, and I think understanding them has helped me to find more fulfillment in my fountain pen hobby instead of just chasing the next pen all the time. For the first reason, let's start out by talking about what is happening in your brain when you buy a fountain pen. If you're like me, you got your first fountain pen with the hope that it would somehow elevate your creative experience. Whether you got it for creative writing or planning or journaling or drawing, you hope that a fountain pen will help you enjoy what you do and maybe help you become even just a little bit more successful at it. And then you get your first fountain pen and maybe your second and your third, and what you had hoped for probably became a reality. You now have nice pens that have helped elevate your creative process. But if you're like me, you don't stop at 1 or 2 or 3 fountain pens. You keep going. You've been bitten by the bug. You've gone down the breather hole. You want to explore more pen brands, nib sizes, and inks. And there's nothing inherently wrong with any of that. But at some point, I think your desire for a nice fountain pen is subtly replaced, whether you realize it or not, by a desire for more dopamine. Now, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I have read a little bit about this issue. Dopamine is commonly referred to as a pleasure chemical. It's the high you feel when you buy a new fountain pen, it's the high you feel when you unbox that fountain pen, and it's the hit that you often get on social media when you check your notifications and you find the new likes and the new comments and followers and all of that. It feels good, but the problem is that the pleasure you get from dopamine is very short-lived. And I've heard that looking at dopamine as merely a pleasure chemical is very oversimplified, because dopamine doesn't just deal in pleasure, it deals in desire, in appetite. And that's why things like social media and even collecting fountain pens can be kind of addictive. So at a certain point, I think you stop buying fountain pens and you start buying dopamine hits, sold to you by all of the advertising we're constantly inundated with. Those hits are short-lived, and to get a new hit, you have to buy a new fountain pen. And between purchases, the pens that you already have may start to feel a little dull or unsatisfactory for some reason compared to the next shiny pen on your wish list. And you may stop enjoying the pens that you have and may even find them problematic to use. As all of this is happening, there's a real risk of losing sight of what you bought your first fountain pen for, which was probably for creative purposes of one kind or another. Which brings me to my second reason that my fountain pens, and maybe yours, never feel quite good enough. Okay, so here's reason number 2. In my creative process, it can be really easy to feel dissatisfied with my creative process itself. My handwriting is bad, my wrist hurts, my experience with a particular fountain pen never seems to hold up to what I'm seeing on Instagram or in fountain pen forums or here on YouTube. And it's easy to fall into the idea that your tools that you currently have are at least partly to blame for the problems that you're experiencing. Maybe my wrist wouldn't hurt if my pen had a thicker grip section. Maybe my handwriting would be better if my nib was a different size or a different shape. And that may be part of it, but I've learned over nearly a decade of using fountain pens that I am more to blame for my problems than my pens are. A good fountain pen, regardless of the price point, is a wonderful tool that people can use to make all kinds of beautiful things. But it takes real time and effort to build those skills. And even if everyone around you thinks that your handwriting is just drop dead gorgeous, there's still probably something in you that just isn't quite satisfied with it, that sees a problem with it. We are our own toughest critics, and sometimes, if we're not careful, it can be easy to pass the blame from us to our tools. All of this might sound dumb and obvious, but I really think these ideas can creep into your subconscious mind without you really realizing it. So I think it's worth pausing for a minute here to analyze your thought process as far as your relationship with your tools is concerned. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that collecting fountain pens is a bad thing, and I'm definitely not saying that I'm done buying fountain pens and reviewing cool writing gear. What I am saying is that we need to think critically about the reasons that we want that next new fountain pen to make sure that it will actually bring the fulfillment that we are looking for. Will that new fountain pen really benefit your life, or is it just the next dopamine hit? Will that fountain pen really elevate your creative experience, or do you just need to practice your skills a little bit more? Expanding our creative skills will bring much more lasting satisfaction than expanding our pen collections. And creating something beautiful will always bring more satisfaction than buying something beautiful. That's my 2 cents, but what do you think? Also, if you want some ideas for how you can enjoy your fountain pen hobby without buying any new stuff, check out this video here. Or if that one doesn't interest you, YouTube seems to think you might enjoy this video. Thanks for watching.